Think about the small rules you obey without noticing. You stand on the right side of a hallway. You wait your turn at a counter. You look for a street name before you trust a direction. You expect water to arrive through a pipe. You expect a city to collect waste, mark roads, post public information, number days, record contracts, inspect buildings, and punish people for blocking the street. None of this feels ancient. It feels like normal life. It feels so normal that it almost feels natural. But cities are not natural. Cities are agreements. They are thousands of strangers pretending, very successfully, that they share the same invisible rulebook. And one of the strangest things about the modern world is how many of those quiet city habits have old roots. Not because the Romans invented everything. They did not. They borrowed from Greeks, Etruscans, Egyptians, local Italian communities, older Near Eastern cities, and from the practical intelligence of people who had already been living together for a very long time. But Rome had a particular gift for turning useful habits into systems. Road systems, water systems, legal systems, building systems, military systems, tax systems, calendar systems, public space systems. The Roman answer to discomfort was often not a single invention. It was a rule. Do it this way. Build it here. Measure it like this. Write it down. Send a copy. Mark the road. Keep the water moving. Keep the street open. Keep the crowd fed. Keep the bath heated. Keep the contract visible. Keep the dead outside the city. Keep strangers predictable enough that daily life can continue. That is why ancient Rome is useful for this channel. Before modern comfort, the comfort of a city was not automatic. It had to be arranged by law, stone, habit, fear, labor, memory, and repetition. So tonight, let's move through a set of Roman rules and routines that still feel oddly familiar. Some survive directly. Some survive as echoes. Some are not Roman inventions at all, but Roman versions of older urban solutions that helped shape later Europe. And some are simply the same old human answer to the same old problem. How do strangers live together without making every morning impossible? The first rule is simple. Put the law where people can see it. Modern comfort depends heavily on the idea that rules are written somewhere. You may not read the building code before entering an apartment. You may not read the traffic law before crossing a road. You may not read the full terms of a contract before tapping accept. But you believe, somewhere in the background, that rules exist in writing. That belief is one of the quiet foundations of modern life. The ancient Roman world did not begin with that comfort fully formed. Early Roman law, like law in many societies, was tied to custom, memory, status, and the authority of people who already knew how things were supposed to work. That is comfortable if you are one of the people inside the circle. It is less comfortable if you are outside it. If rules are not written, a powerful person can explain them differently each time. If procedures are hidden, the weaker person must trust the stronger person to be fair. If ordinary people cannot point to a public rule, they are always asking permission from memory. The famous Roman story of the 12 tables matters because it shows a city trying to turn law into something visible. In the 5th century before the Common Era, Roman legal rules were written down and displayed. The details of the surviving fragments are old, severe, and sometimes alien to us. They belong to a society of debt, family power, property boundaries, public procedure, funeral restrictions, and status divisions. They are not modern human rights. They are not gentle. But the act of writing law in public answered a deep urban discomfort. It said that rules should not live only in the mouth of the powerful. Imagine the feeling of that. You are a small farmer, a debtor, a client, a person without much leverage. You walk into a public place and see law not as rumor, not as a private judgment, not as a priestly secret, but as words attached to the city itself. You may still lose. You may still be poor. You may still face a world harsher than ours. But the rule has a body now. It can be pointed at. It can be repeated. It can be taught. It can be argued over. That is the ancestor of a comfort you use every time you expect a parking sign, a rental agreement, a posted notice, a receipt policy, a court summons, or a workplace rule to mean the same thing tomorrow that it meant today. We still follow this rule almost without thinking. Write it down. Make it visible. Turn power into text. That sounds cold, but it is also one of the oldest comforts of city life. The second rule is to give the day a public shape. A calendar seems boring until it fails. Modern life is built on dates. Rent is due on a date. Pay arrives on a date. School starts on a date. A passport expires on a date. A medicine is taken by date. A meeting begins at a date and time that dozens of strangers accept without needing to negotiate the moon. This is a huge comfort. It is also a huge discipline. Ancient Rome inherited, adjusted, confused, and reformed calendars over time. The best-known reform is the Julian calendar, introduced under Julius Caesar in the 1st century before the Common Era. It was not exactly the calendar most of the world uses now. The later Gregorian reform changed the calculation. But the familiar skeleton of named months, numbered days, official years, public festivals, business days, and civic time owes much to the Roman habit of making time administrative. Before modern comfort, time was not only the rising sun and the darkening sky. It was a civic resource. The court sits on this day. The market happens on this cycle. The festival interrupts work. The tax is due. The election is scheduled. The army moves after winter. The debt matures. The contract names a term. The city needs everyone to agree that today is today. Think of a Roman official, a merchant, a soldier, a landlord, a farmer near a town, all living under different pressures but needing shared time. Without a stable public calendar, city life becomes a fog of personal memory. Who promised what, when? When does a magistrate enter office? When does a lease end? When can religious business happen? When does ordinary business stop? Modern people often joke about calendars as if they are a burden. And they are. But they are also a soft pillow under the whole world. You wake up and the date is already decided for you. Your phone knows it. Your bank knows it. Your job knows it. Your government knows it. Your airline knows it. That is a kind of comfort so complete that we cannot feel it unless it breaks. Rome did not invent shared time, but Roman administration helped make time feel like infrastructure. A road for days. A grid laid across sunlight. We still follow the rule. Name the day. Number it. Make people meet inside the same invisible frame. The third rule is to make roads more important than scenery. A modern road is such an ordinary object that we complain about it constantly. Too much traffic. Too many lanes. Too many repairs. Too many signs. But the ordinary road is one of the most dramatic comforts humans ever built. It turns distance into expectation. You leave here. You arrive there. Not because the land is kind. Not because the weather is gentle. Not because every village welcomes you. But because someone has forced a line of travel through the world. Roman roads are famous for good reason. They served armies, messengers, merchants, administrators, tax collectors, builders, pilgrims, and ordinary travelers. They were not all identical. They were not all perfectly straight. They could vary by region, funding, terrain, and period. But the Roman road as an idea is still powerful because it treats movement as a public problem. Before modern comfort, bad movement shaped daily life. A muddy track could delay grain. A broken bridge could isolate a town. A steep, rough path could exhaust animals. A hidden turn could cost hours. A winter road could become a punishment. The Roman answer, especially in areas under military and administrative control, was to build routes that made power mobile. That sounds harsh, because roads did help conquest. But once the road existed, it also carried letters, trade, news, building materials, family visits, and ordinary errands. The road was not morally pure. Infrastructure rarely is. It comforts some people while controlling others. That is one of the honest things about ancient comfort. Imagine a traveler approaching a Roman road after a stretch of uncertain ground. The feet find firmer surface. The cartwheel steadies. The horizon begins to organize itself. Milestones, settlements, bridges, and way stations change the feeling of the journey. The road says not that travel is easy, but that someone has expected travel to happen here. That is the same comfort you feel when a highway sign tells you the next city is close. Or when your map app can route you through streets with names and numbers. Or when an ambulance can reach a house because the city did not leave movement to chance. We still follow the Roman rule. Do not simply hope people can move. Build movement into the ground. The fourth rule is to mark distance. Distance without marks is tiring in a special way. It is not only the walking. It is the uncertainty. How far now? How much longer? Did we miss the turning? Is the town ahead or behind? Can the animal make it before dark? Modern comfort measures distance constantly. Road signs, mile markers, train platforms, airport gates, delivery tracking, fitness watches, maps that turn unknown space into numbers. Ancient Roman roads often used milestones to make movement legible. A milestone was not just a stone. It was an agreement between the traveler and the state. It told you that the road belonged to a system. It could name an emperor, a distance, a route, a place. Sometimes it announced repair and authority as much as information. But even authority can be comforting when you are tired. The milestone says someone counted this. Someone measured this. Someone wanted this road to be read. Think of a person walking with a mule, a bundle, a message, a small purse, and a memory of instructions. The road may be hot. The dust may stick to the feet. The next may be uncertain. But a marked distance gives the mind something to hold. It turns travel from endlessness into stages. This is a quiet survival in modern life. We like to pretend that distance is abstract now. But we still calm ourselves with numbers. 3 exits. 12 minutes. 2 stops. Half a mile. 1 gate away. Your package is 7 stops from delivery. This is not just information. It is emotional management. Before modern comfort, the Roman milestone gave a traveler a small piece of mental comfort in a large landscape. It did what all good infrastructure does. It reduced the amount of fear a person had to carry in the head. The fifth rule is to separate public water from private luck. Turn a tap and you perform a miracle so domestic that it feels boring. Water arrives. Clear enough to trust. Pressurized enough to move upward. Timed so well that you can waste it while thinking about something else. For much of human history, water was not boring. Water was labor, risk, ownership, status, and geography. If the nearest well was far away, your day changed. If the spring failed, your household changed. If the river was dirty, your body paid. If someone controlled access, comfort became dependence. Roman aqueducts are famous because they made water urban. They did not bring perfect equality. They did not remove labor. They required maintenance, politics, money, engineering, and control. But the Roman habit of bringing water into cities through planned channels, tanks, pipes, fountains, baths, and public distribution changed the emotional shape of urban life. Water no longer had to be only where nature placed it. It could be summoned. Slowly. Carefully. By gravity. Through stone and mortar. Across valleys and under hills. Into public basins where ordinary people might draw it. Imagine the sound of a fountain in a Roman city. Not decorative at first. Useful. People come with vessels. They talk. wait, complain, watch children, hear rumors, judge neighbors, and carry water home. The fountain is part utility, part meeting point, part public promise. The city is saying, you do not have to find all your water alone. Modern comfort has hidden that promise inside walls. The fountain became the pipe. The pipe became the tap. The tap became expectation. Now, when the water stops, people become ancient very quickly. Buckets appear. Neighbors talk. Someone checks a notice. Someone calls the building manager. Someone remembers that comfort has a route. Rome did not invent water engineering, but Roman aqueducts made the idea unforgettable in the later imagination. We still follow the rule. Bring water to people, not only people to water. The sixth rule is to hide complexity behind a public face. A Roman fountain looked simple to the person using it. Water emerged. A vessel filled. Life continued. Behind that simple face were gradients, channels, settling tanks, repairs, permissions, materials, officials, workers, and disputes. That is very modern. Modern comfort is mostly hidden complexity. A train arrives and you see a door. Behind it are schedules, crews, power systems, maintenance yards, signals, wages, maps, laws, and spare parts. A toilet flushes and you see water. Behind it are pipes, sewers, treatment plants, pumps, inspections, bills, and engineers. A card payment works, and you see approval. Behind it are networks, banks, rules, fraud systems, terminals, and databases. Roman cities teach the same lesson at an older scale. The comfortable surface is never the whole object. Aqueducts, baths, roads, drains, markets, legal notices, and public buildings all required unseen arrangements. A Roman citizen or resident might enjoy a bath without thinking about the wood supply that heated water. He might walk a paved street without thinking about the quarry. She might buy food at a counter without thinking about trade routes, weights, measures, and rents. They were not modern consumers, but they knew the feeling of using a system larger than themselves. This is one reason Rome can feel oddly near. Not because a Roman city was clean in the modern sense. Not because it was fair. Not because it was safe for everyone. But because it had already discovered a basic truth of urban comfort. People do not want to understand every system they depend on. They want the front of the system to work. The fountain should run. The street should be passable. The bath should be warm. The measure should be fair. The date should be known. The document should count. The road should lead somewhere. This rule is still everywhere. Make the public face simple. Hide the work behind it. The seventh rule is to make bathing social. A private bathroom is one of the greatest modern luxuries. It is so private that people forget how recently privacy became normal for washing. Hot water inside the home. A door that locks. Soap nearby. A drain underfoot. A towel that belongs to you. Light, heat, and mirrors. These are comforts of a world that has moved the body indoors. Roman bathing was different. Public baths were not only about hygiene. They were social places, leisure places, exercise places, business places, status places, cooling and warming places. Large imperial baths could be monumental city worlds in themselves. Smaller baths in towns and forts carried the same basic idea at a different scale. The sequence of warm, hot, and cold spaces made the body part of architecture. Before modern comfort, heat was difficult. Hot water was labor. A warm room was fuel. A clean body required planning. The bath gathered those costs into a shared institution. That is why the Roman bath is not just a pleasant ruin. It is a solution. Instead of every household heating and draining and managing everything alone, a community could concentrate heat, water, labor, and design. There are modern echoes everywhere. Gyms, spas, saunas, public pools, locker rooms, wellness clubs, hotel bathrooms. Even the awkward small talk of a changing room has ancient relatives. The Roman habit says that the body is not only private, it is also civic. That feels strange now because modern comfort has made privacy the default dream. But the old comfort was access. Maybe your own home was cramped. Maybe your room was dark. Maybe your water had to be carried. Maybe your cooking smoke clung to your clothes. But the bath offered a different body for an hour. Warm stone. Steam. Oil. Scraping. Voices. Feet on wet floors. The soft shock of cold water. To us, the rule survives in altered form. We still build places where the body is maintained in public. We still pay for heat, water, exercise, and relaxation arranged by strangers. We still believe that comfort can be shared by appointment, entrance fee, membership, or routine. The eighth rule is to feed people who do not have a kitchen worth using. Fast food feels modern because it has logos, lights, plastic, delivery apps, and a moral reputation that changes every decade. But the basic urban need is old. Many city people do not have the space, fuel, equipment, time, or household structure to cook everything at home. Ancient Roman cities had food cellars, bakeries, taverns, bars, and counters serving prepared food and drink. Pompeii preserves this world with unusual vividness because shops, counters, jars, street fronts, and painted walls survived in place. The thermopolium is especially familiar to modern eyes. A counter opens to the street. Vessels are set into the surface. People come, buy, eat, drink, move on, talk, watch, hear politics, and continue the day. It is not a modern fast food chain. There is no fluorescent sign. No standardized menu across an empire. No paper cup with a logo. But the comfort is recognizable. I am hungry. I am away from home. I do not want to build a fire. I need something now. The city answers with a counter. This rule matters because we often imagine the past as home-centered. The hearth. The family pot. The household meal. Those existed, of course. But dense urban life always creates people eating outside the house. Workers. Travelers. Renters. Single people. Poorer residents. Customers between tasks. People whose rooms were not built for cooking comfort. When we buy a quick lunch near work, we are not only being modern. We are obeying a very old urban rule. Feed the person who is not at home. Feed the person whose time belongs to the street. Feed the person whose room is too small, whose fire is inconvenient, whose day is moving faster than a household meal. Before modern comfort, the food counter turned the street into an extension of the kitchen. We still live by that. Only now the counter glows. The ninth rule is to let shops speak to the street. Modern cities are full of edges that sell. Windows. Signs. Menus. Open doors. Display cases. Counters. Sandwich boards. Screens. The street is never only a street. It is an argument for attention. Roman streets, especially in well-preserved places like Pompeii, show the same basic habit in an older texture. Buildings opened outward. Workshops, taverns, food counters, bakeries, and shops made the street a commercial surface. Political notices and painted messages used walls as public media. A busy street was not simply a route. It was a place where business happened with the front of the building. This is one of those Roman habits that does not feel dramatic until you imagine the opposite. If every transaction required entering a private courtyard, finding the right household, negotiating through servants, and understanding local relationships, the city would be slower. The street-facing shop reduces friction. The buyer can see. The seller can be found. The passerby can be converted into a customer. The public route becomes an economic corridor. Modern retail still follows the rule. Even online retail imitates it. The storefront became the homepage. The sign became the thumbnail. The counter became the checkout button. The street became the feed. But the old physical rule remains underneath. If you want strangers to buy, show yourself to strangers. In Roman urban life, this meant openings, counters, painted walls, displayed goods, noise, smell, and repetition. You know the baker because the smell finds you. You know the tavern because people gather there. You know the candidate because the wall says his name. You know the workshop because the labor spills into the street. Before modern comfort, visibility was a business tool. The modern city has polished the same rule into glass and branding. But the rule is older than branding. Make the street readable. Let work face outward. The 10th rule is to standardize the measure before you trust the market. A market without shared measures is exhausting. How much is a fair weight? How much wine is in that vessel? How large is the loaf? Is that coin accepted? Is that price cheating or just expensive? Modern comfort hides standardization in labels. Grams, liters, meters, unit prices, sealed packages, receipts, scales with inspection stickers, ingredient lists, barcodes. None of this makes markets perfectly honest. But it gives dishonesty a surface to push against. Roman life relied heavily on weights, measures, coins, contracts, and visible forms of exchange. Across the empire, local practice varied, and not every market was orderly. But the Roman instinct for administration helped turn buying and selling into something that could be counted, taxed, recorded, and disputed. The emotional comfort is simple. You do not have to trust the seller's smile alone. There is a measure. There is a coin. There is a known unit. There may be an official standard somewhere behind the transaction. Imagine a person buying oil, grain, wine, or cloth. The buyer may not be rich. The seller may know more. The crowd may be loud. The day may be hot. But a shared measure gives the buyer at least one ally. This is not romantic. It is practical. A city cannot run if every loaf, jar, board, and parcel has to be trusted from scratch. Standard measures are social shortcuts. They allow strangers to exchange without becoming intimate. That may sound emotionally thin, but it is one of the great comforts of urban life. You can buy from someone you do not know. You can leave. You can compare. You can complain. You can repeat the act tomorrow. We still follow this rule constantly. The supermarket shelf is a Roman market dream carried to absurd precision. Everything labeled. Everything weighed. Everything priced by unit. Everything scanned. And still, somewhere underneath, the old worry remains. Am I getting what I paid for? The rule survives because the worry survives. Measure first. Trust second. The 11th rule is to make public notices impossible to miss. Before phones, newspapers, radio, search engines, email, and official websites, public information needed walls, voices, tablets, inscriptions, messengers, and repeated places. The Roman world was full of writing in public. Not everyone could read. Literacy varied widely by class, occupation, place, and period. But public writing still mattered. It marked power. It announced laws. It praised donors. It named officials. It recorded dedications. It advertised games. It supported candidates. It spoke to the crowd even when part of the crowd needed someone else to read it aloud. Modern people often think of public notices as boring. A regulation on a wall. A transit update. A closing time. A court notice. A warning sign. A construction permit. A menu. A poster. But public notices are one of the small ways a city talks to people it does not personally know. That is the old Roman problem. How does a city communicate with strangers at scale? It writes where strangers pass. It repeats authority in stone, paint, bronze, plaster, wax, and voice. Imagine a wall in Pompeii with painted electoral messages. The wall is not just decoration. It is public attention being rented, borrowed, claimed, or used. Someone wants your support. Someone wants your memory. Someone wants a name to stick in your mind. This feels familiar because modern life is covered in the same behavior. Advertisements, campaign posters, public health notices, parking restrictions, warnings, transit maps, restaurant menus, office signs, apartment rules taped near elevators. The technology changed. The need did not. Before modern comfort, the city had to speak physically. If the message was not placed where bodies moved, it might as well not exist. We still follow the rule. Put the notice where the foot traffic is. The 12th rule is to push death to the edge. This rule is quieter, and it tells us a lot about comfort. Modern cities usually separate the places of the living from the places of the dead. Cemeteries have boundaries. Funeral homes have addresses. Hospitals, morgues, and burial grounds are regulated. Death is present, but it is managed. Ancient Rome also had strong ideas about the boundary between living urban space and burial. Tombs lined roads outside city limits. The dead could be remembered publicly, sometimes very publicly, but they were not simply folded into ordinary domestic space in the same way everywhere. This was not only hygiene. It was religion, law, status, memory, fear, respect, and urban order. But from the point of view of comfort, the rule is clear. The living city needs a boundary. Death cannot be nowhere. It must be placed somewhere. Think of a Roman road leaving a city. The traffic thins. The gates fall behind. Tombs appear along the route. Names, faces, inscriptions, family claims, freedmen, children, soldiers, merchants, patrons. The dead are not hidden in the modern sense. They are visible at the edge, watching the movement of the living. That is different from a modern cemetery behind a fence, but the deeper habit is familiar. We still organize death through location. We still make the dead part of the city map without letting death occupy every room. We still use roads, names, stones, dates, plots, and official records to turn grief into place. Before modern comfort, this mattered because cities are emotionally crowded. Birth, trade, illness, worship, sex, waste, food, politics, sleep, and death all press against each other. Rules create distance where the body and mind need distance. That is what this Roman habit shows. Comfort is not only warmth and food. Sometimes comfort is a boundary. Here is the city of daily business. There is the road of memory. The 13th rule is to make apartments normal, then complain about them forever. Apartment living can feel extremely modern. Elevators, mailboxes, shared walls, upstairs noise, rent, fire codes, landlords, water pressure, neighbors whose lives you know only by sound. But dense Roman cities also had multi-story housing, especially for people far from elite comfort. The Roman insula is often discussed as a kind of apartment block, though the exact forms varied. Some were more substantial. Some were dangerous. Some mixed shops below and housing above. Some housed poorer residents in cramped upper rooms. The old discomfort is instantly recognizable. Land is expensive. The city is dense. People need to live near work, markets, docks, baths, temples, workshops, and administrative life. So the city grows upward. Upward living creates new rules. Who owns the building? Who repairs the stairs? Who controls the street door? What happens if a fire starts? What happens if someone throws waste from above? What happens if the upper floor is badly built? What happens when the person above you is louder than the person next to you? Ancient Rome did not solve these problems in a modern way. It suffered many of them. Fires, collapses, crowding, speculation, and poor construction were real urban dangers. But the survival of the pattern matters. Apartment living is a rule forced by density. Share the vertical city. Accept that private life will be stacked. Accept that comfort will depend on people you did not choose. Imagine a tenant in an upper room. The stairs are worn. The street below is noisy. Smoke and smell rise. The room may be hot in summer and cold at night. Water must be carried. Cooking may be limited. A rich Roman house with courtyards and painted walls is somewhere else, almost a different species of shelter. But the tenant has proximity. The city is below. Work is near. Food is near. Noise is near. Opportunity is near. This is exactly the modern apartment bargain. Less space, more access. Less privacy, more city. More rules, more convenience. The 14th rule is to fear fire in groups. A house fire is terrifying. A city fire is a public nightmare. Ancient Rome had dense housing, open flames, cooking fires, lamps, workshops, wooden elements, storage, narrow streets, and crowded neighborhoods. Fire was not an occasional abstract danger. It was part of urban imagination. Modern comfort handles fire through alarms, codes, exits, sprinklers, extinguishers, insurance, electrical standards, fire departments, inspections, materials, and emergency numbers. We do not think about these rules much until a drill interrupts a workday. But the rule is old. When many people live close together, one person's flame becomes everyone's problem. Roman authorities at different moments tried to manage fire through night watch, street organization, building limits, and urban services. The famous vigiles of Imperial Rome combined firefighting and watch functions in the city. They were not a modern fire department, but they revealed the same civic fear. Fire cannot be left entirely to the household. It must become public work. Imagine the sound of alarm in a Roman street at night. No electric siren. No red engine. No pressurized hose like a modern crew might use. Just shouting, movement, buckets, hooks, tools, neighbors, panic, orders, smoke, and the knowledge that walls are close. The people fighting the fire are also fighting the design of their own city. That is why modern fire rules can feel annoying and still be ancient in spirit. Do not block the exit. Do not overload the building. Keep a watch. Keep access open. Limit the thing that burns. Make private carelessness a public concern. Before modern comfort, people learned this rule the hard way. Cities burn socially. One flame recruits a street. That is why fire safety is not only safety. It is urban memory written as regulation. The 15th rule is to let drains do the dirty diplomacy. Every city has to negotiate with waste. No polite society escapes this. Food becomes refuse. Bodies become waste. Rain becomes mud. Animals leave traces. Workshops produce scraps. Markets rot. Streets collect what people do not want to keep. Modern comfort hides much of this negotiation underground. Drains, sewers, street cleaning, trash collection, wastewater treatment, stormwater systems. The clean surface of a modern city is partly a performance created by hidden movement. Roman cities had drains and sewers of varying scale and success. The Cloaca Maxima in Rome became legendary as a great drainage work, though its history developed over time and its functions changed. Pompeii's streets show another practical pattern: raised pavements, stepping stones, drainage channels, and street surfaces shaped for water and movement. These features remind us that ancient streets were not clean modern sidewalks. They were working surfaces. Rain, traffic, animals, waste, and cleaning all met there. The old comfort was not perfect cleanliness. It was flow. Keep the unwanted moving. Do not let water stand too long. Give feet a dry crossing where possible. Separate the pedestrian from the filth when you can. Use slope, stone, gaps, and routine. Imagine crossing a Pompeian street after rain. The road surface is wet. Will ruts hold memory? The raised stepping stones let you pass from one pavement to another without sinking into the street. A cart can still pass because the gaps are placed for wheels. This is a small piece of design genius because it solves two problems at once. Feet need stones. Wheels need gaps. Comfort is often like that. Not a grand invention. Just a street admitting that two kinds of traffic must share one dirty place. Modern crosswalks, curbs, storm drains, gutters, and sidewalks obey the same basic rule. Make the wet and dirty parts of the city move somewhere else. Give the foot a protected line. The 16th rule is to build curbs between bodies and wheels. The curb is easy to ignore. It is a raised edge. A line of concrete or stone. A place where a shoe drops down. A boundary a stroller bumps against. But the curb is one of the most important little comforts in a city. It tells pedestrians where the dangerous movement begins. It tells water where to run. It tells wheels where not to be. It lets a person walk beside traffic without constantly renegotiating survival. Roman street design varied, but in places like Pompeii we can see raised sidewalks beside streets and crossing stones that help pedestrians move through a busy street environment. This is not the same as a modern accessible sidewalk. It was not designed for our standards. But the principle feels familiar. Feet and wheels need different zones. Before modern comfort, carts, animals, loads, pedestrians, vendors, and household activity could all occupy the same public space. Without edges, the street becomes a continuous argument. The raised walkway is a rule made of stone. Walk here. Roll there. Cross there. Let water run below. This is urban kindness in a hard material. Not soft kindness. Not equal kindness. But practical kindness. It reduces the number of decisions a body must make while moving. Modern cities are full of such instructions. Lane markings. Sidewalks. Curbs. Bike lanes. Platform edges. Barriers. Ramps. Painted crossings. The more crowded a place becomes, the more it needs quiet lines. Rome did not invent the idea of separating movement, but Roman streets preserve the emotional logic clearly. Comfort begins when the ground tells you where to put your feet. The 17th rule is to make politics visible in everyday places. Modern people complain that politics is everywhere. On walls. On screens. In messages. In yards. On stickers. In arguments at work. But politics has always wanted the places where ordinary people already look. Pompeii's painted election notices are a beautiful reminder of this. Names of candidates appeared on walls, including near busy commercial spaces. The city became a surface of persuasion. This matters because Roman civic life was not only Senate speeches and marble monuments. It also lived in small acts of public visibility. Support this man. Remember this name. This person is backed by respectable people. This shop, household, or association lends attention. Modern political advertising follows the same old rule. Do not ask people to seek politics in a special place. Put politics where people already buy bread, drink, walk, wait, and gossip. Before modern comfort, public opinion was not measured by polls and analytics. It moved through reputation, visibility, patronage, speech, inscriptions, crowds, and neighborhood memory. A wall could do work. A sign could keep a name alive. A tavern could become political media simply because people passed it. This feels familiar because our own public life has not escaped the street. It has only multiplied the street into screens. The timeline is a wall. The ad placement is a painted notice. The endorsement is a neighbor's recommendation in digital clothing. The rule survives because attention is still local even when technology is global. People notice what appears in the places they already trust, use, or cannot avoid. The Roman habit looks simple. Paint the wall. Modern life says the same thing in more expensive language. Place the message where the audience already is. The 18th rule is to make status architectural. This is one of the less comfortable survivals. Modern life pretends, at least in public, that buildings are mostly functional. A lobby is a lobby. A front door is a front door. A large office is just practical. A gated entrance is just security. But architecture has always spoken status. Roman domestic architecture is very clear about this, especially in elite houses. The house could be a stage for social rank. Entrances, atria, reception spaces, dining rooms, wall paintings, courtyards, and sightlines helped express who the owner was and how visitors should feel. The house was not only shelter. It was a social instrument. Before modern comfort, status often had to be seen physically. Clothing, seating, processions, clients, doorways, tombs, inscriptions, and domestic space all help tell the story of rank. This rule survives in quieter ways. The executive floor. The corner office. The luxury lobby. The private dining room. The large front desk. The building with the doorman. The house that makes guests pass through carefully designed rooms before reaching the host. The apartment listing that sells a view as if the sky were a credential. We still let space translate status into feeling. The Roman version can be more open about it. Imagine a visitor entering a wealthy Roman house. The street noise shifts. The doorway frames a view inward. The house controls what is revealed and when. The visitor understands, without needing a speech, that this is not a poor upper room above a shop. This is a person with clients, wealth, memory, display, and public identity. Modern comfort has democratized some private comforts and hidden others behind money. Many people now have running water, private washing, glass windows, mattresses, electric light, and locks that even a rich Roman could not have imagined in our exact form. But status architecture remains. We still follow the rule. Let space tell people how important someone is supposed to be. The 19th rule is to turn dining into order. Eating is biological. Dining is social. Ancient Rome knew the difference. The way people reclined, sat, served, entered, drank, offered, hosted, and displayed food could express rank and relationship. Not every Roman meal was an elite banquet. Most eating was more ordinary. But Roman dining culture shows a rule that survives in modern comfort. Meals organize people. Think about a modern restaurant. There is a host stand, a reservation, a table, a menu, a server, courses, signals about price, signals about dress, signals about who pays, signals about whether you are welcome to stay. Now strip away the modern technology, and the deeper rule remains. When people eat together, they need order because eating exposes need. Hunger is intimate. Chewing is bodily. Drinking changes behavior. Hospitality can create obligation. Who gets served first matters. Who reclines, who stands, who cooks, who clears, who is invited, who is excluded. These are social facts disguised as dinner. Roman dining makes this visible because elite meals could be stages of status and patronage. But the rule is everywhere. The lunchroom at work. The wedding table plan. The family holiday seating arrangement. The business dinner. The restaurant reservation. The awkward question of who sits where. The comfort of modern dining is not only the food. It is the choreography. Someone has decided where the forks go, when the next plate arrives, where the line begins, how the bill comes, and how strangers can eat near one another without confusion. Before modern comfort, dining rules helped control the vulnerability of eating. Rome did not invent this, but Roman social life gives us a strong old example. The rule still holds. If people eat together, the table becomes a map. The 20th rule is to make documents travel farther than people. Modern life is impossible without documents that move without us. A contract is emailed. A form is filed. A certificate is accepted. A ticket is scanned. A permit is checked. A bank transfer is recorded. The person does not need to stand in every room where their obligation appears. Writing does the traveling. Rome was an intensely documentary civilization in many contexts. Inscriptions, tablets, papyri, military records, legal texts, tax records, receipts, correspondence, and official communications helped hold together a world too large for face-to-face memory. Not every person had equal access to writing. Not every document survived. Not every written thing was fair. But the Roman habit of recording, sending, copying, posting, and preserving information is one of the deep ancestors of administrative comfort. Before modern comfort, distance made responsibility fragile. A governor is far away. A soldier is posted near a frontier. A merchant ships goods. A tax obligation crosses a province. A legal decision must be remembered. A birth, death, sale, debt, order, or appointment needs continuity beyond the spoken word. Writing extends authority. It also extends trust. Imagine a wax tablet, a wooden writing tablet, a papyrus letter, a military note, a receipt. It is small. It can be carried. It can be stored. It can be shown to someone else. It gives memory an object. This is why modern bureaucracy, for all its frustrations, is also a comfort machine. It lets your identity and obligations exist outside your body. You do not have to personally explain every fact from the beginning. The document arrives first. The file remembers. The system recognizes. Of course, systems can fail. Documents can trap people. Records can be wrong. But the basic comfort remains powerful. Rome helped make the written administrative world feel possible at scale. We still follow the rule. Do not make memory carry everything. Give memory a surface. The 21st rule is to give strangers citizenship on paper. Citizenship is one of the most abstract comforts in modern life. It can feel invisible until it is threatened. A passport line. A right to vote. A tax obligation. A court protection. A military duty. A border. A welfare rule. A school rule. A residency document. Citizenship turns a person into a recognized member of a political system. Rome's citizenship changed over centuries. It began as a narrower status and expanded in stages, with different rights, grants, local statuses, and political realities. By the early 3rd century of the Common Era, Roman citizenship was extended widely to free inhabitants of the empire under the Constitutio Antoniniana. The details and motives are debated, including taxation and administration. But the broader Roman story matters for comfort because it shows citizenship as a portable identity. You are not only the person your village knows. You can belong to a legal category larger than your street. This is a powerful idea. It can protect. It can control. It can include. It can exclude. It can make people legible to the state. Modern people live inside this rule every day. We carry numbers, cards, passports, accounts, registrations, addresses, and statuses. These can feel cold, but they also allow strangers to recognize us without knowing us. Before modern comfort, recognition was not automatic. If you traveled far, who were you? What law touched you? Who could speak for you? What rights followed you? What obligations followed you? Rome wrestled with these questions across a huge territory. The answers were never simple, but the Roman habit of making legal status portable shaped later political imagination. We still obey a version of the old rule. Make belonging recordable. Make identity travel. Make the stranger legible. The 22nd rule is to make public generosity look permanent. Modern cities are filled with names on buildings, libraries, hospitals, university halls, parks, theaters, benches, museum wings, even small plaques on walls. Someone paid. Someone donated. Someone wanted memory attached to stone, glass, brass, or landscaping. Ancient Rome understood this deeply. Public buildings, monuments, baths, roads, temples, repairs, games, and gifts could advertise the generosity and status of elites and officials. Benefaction was not pure charity in the modern private sense. It was social exchange. A person gave to the public and received honor, influence, gratitude, votes, prestige, or memory. The city received comfort. The donor received visibility. This rule is uncomfortable because it shows how public good and private ambition often hold hands. But it is also realistic. Before modern taxation and public budgeting in the modern sense, cities often depended on wealthy people to sponsor visible improvements. A bath, fountain, pavement, temple, portico, or festival could make daily life better while also making a name harder to forget. Imagine an inscription above a public work. It says, in effect, this comfort has a patron. The water, the pavement, the shade, the spectacle, the repair, the building, the seat, the entrance, the public pride. All of it carries a name. Modern plaques say the same thing politely. We pretend the naming is secondary. But names are part of the bargain. We still follow the Roman rule. Turn generosity into architecture. Make public comfort remember who paid. The 23rd rule is to keep the crowd entertained. This one is famous, but it is often treated too simply. Roman spectacles could be brutal, political, religious, social, and theatrical all at once. We do not need to turn them into cheap excitement to understand their function. Large cities create crowds. Crowds need food, order, identity, distraction, and shared emotion. Modern societies still build places for collective feeling. Stadiums, concert halls, cinemas, parades, festivals, streaming events, public ceremonies, sports leagues. The comfort is not only entertainment. It is being part of a crowd that knows what it is watching. Rome invested heavily in spectacle because spectacle helped bind people to the city, to patrons, to emperors, to gods, to calendars, and to one another. Different forms of entertainment carried different meanings, and not all Romans experienced them in the same way. But the basic civic rule survives. Give the crowd a script for emotion. Let people gather, cheer, judge, remember, argue, and return home with a shared story. Before modern comfort, daily life could be physically hard and politically unequal. Spectacle did not fix that. But it gave the city moments when thousands of people felt the same time at once. That is powerful. Modern life has not abandoned it. When a stadium roars, when a national broadcast begins, when a city watches fireworks, when a concert crowd sings one line together, we are not far from the old rule. The content has changed. The appetite for shared emotion has not. The 24th rule is to give the empire a common look. Travel today, and you will see repeated forms. Airport signs, hotel rooms, chain stores, government offices, road markings, security lines, digital icons. The repetition can feel dull, but it is comforting. You know what to do because the place resembles another place. Rome also spread recognizable forms across vast territory. Roads, forts, baths, amphitheaters, basilicas, forums, temples, inscriptions, coins, military layouts, and administrative habits made distant places feel connected to a shared political world. Local cultures remained. Regional variation remained. The empire was not one flat design. But Roman forms created a visual and practical grammar. If you knew the grammar, a strange place became less strange. This is an underrated comfort. The traveler sees a bath and knows a routine. The soldier sees a fort layout and knows where he is. The merchant sees coins and measures and knows how to begin. The official reads familiar formulae. The resident recognizes the public buildings that make a town feel like a Roman town. Modern standardization works the same way. It reduces social translation. You do not need to learn each airport from zero. You do not need a new ritual for every bank machine. You do not need to ask what a red light might mean in each city. Standard form is a kind of mercy for strangers. It is also a kind of power. Rome's repeated forms said, "This place belongs to a larger order." Modern repeated forms do the same. The rule survives because both comfort and control love repetition. Make the strange place familiar. The 25th rule is to make the city remember its own repairs. Modern cities are obsessed with maintenance, though not always good at it. Roadwork signs, inspection dates, permit numbers, utility markings, service records, renovation plaques, closed platforms, scaffolding. Maintenance is the unglamorous soul of comfort. Rome understood maintenance because its systems demanded it. Roads break. Aqueducts leak. Drains clog. Baths need fuel and repair. Walls crack. Bridges wear. Public buildings age. Water channels gather mineral deposits. Streets sink and rise. The first act of infrastructure is construction. The second act is arguing over who must keep it alive. Ancient inscriptions often commemorated building, repair, restoration, and dedication. A name attached to repair could be as important as a name attached to a new monument. This tells us something modern people forget. Maintenance is political. To repair a road is to decide that movement still matters there. To clear a drain is to decide that a neighborhood should not be abandoned to water and smell. To restore a bath is to decide that public comfort deserves fuel, labor, and money again. Before modern comfort, decay was visible and fast. Stone lasts, but systems do not last by stone alone. They need hands. They need budgets. They need supervision. They need people who care enough, or want enough credit, to repair what other people built. Modern life still follows this Roman lesson. The city is not built once. It is rebuilt quietly every day. The 26th rule is to let the street carry many jobs at once. A modern street is divided into functions. Cars here. Buses there. Bikes there. Pedestrians here. Deliveries during certain hours. Shops along the edge. Trash collected at night. Outdoor seating where permitted. Signs, lights, crossings, loading zones, drains, cables, pipes, and rules. It looks orderly because the disorder has been negotiated. Ancient Roman streets were also multi-use spaces, though in a much rougher world. They carried movement, drainage, commerce, politics, gossip, delivery, labor, animals, carts, processions, and daily social life. The Roman street was not merely a road between buildings. It was a public room without a roof. This rule survives in every lively city. The street is the place where private lives become briefly public. You see what people buy. You hear who argues. You smell what is cooking. You learn which shop is busy. You watch repairs. You read notices. You notice who is important. Before modern comfort, this mattered even more because homes, especially poorer homes, often did not contain the comforts now expected indoors. The street extended the household. It extended the shop. It extended politics. It extended news. It extended food. It extended identity. Modern comfort pulled many activities inside, then pushed some of them back out again with cafes, markets, signs, festivals, transit, and delivery. We still follow the old urban rule. Do not waste the street on movement alone. Let it carry the city's daily life. The 27th rule is to make the army an engineer. Modern people separate soldiers and construction workers in the imagination. But historically, armies often built. Roman military life was deeply connected with roads, forts, bridges, camps, walls, ditches, water systems, and surveying. The Roman soldier was not only a fighter. He could also be part of a machine that shaped land. This matters for comfort because conquest and infrastructure are tangled. A road built for troops can later carry grain. A fort can become a town. A military water system can support civilian life. A bridge built for control can become a route for trade. The comfort that later people inherit may have begun as a tool of power. This is not a reason to romanticize empire. It is a reason to be honest about infrastructure. Before modern comfort, large-scale building often required organized authority. Armies were among the most organized bodies available. They had discipline, labor, hierarchy, tools, surveyors, and urgent reasons to make rough ground usable. Imagine a road being cut not because villagers asked nicely, but because troops must move. The motive is hard. The result may outlive the motive. Centuries later, a traveler may follow the same line because it is still the best path through the land. Modern states still use military engineers, emergency construction, and public works tied to security. The old rule survives in another form. When movement matters enough to power, power learns to build. The 28th rule is to make money small enough to move. Coins are easy to overlook until you imagine life without portable trust. Modern people mostly use digital money now, but the principle is the same. A small token, card, code, or entry lets value move between strangers. Roman coinage was one of the ways empire became touchable. Coins carried images, names, values, political messages, and the practical ability to pay soldiers, collect taxes, buy goods, save, tip, bribe, donate, and settle accounts. Local economies were complex and varied, and barter, credit, and in-kind exchange did not disappear. But coin made many interactions easier. Before modern comfort, value was heavy. Grain is heavy. Animals are inconvenient. Goods vary in quality. Promises require memory. A coin condenses value into a portable object that many strangers can recognize. That recognition is the comfort. You do not need to know the whole life of the seller. You do not need to carry your harvest to every purchase. You can hand over a small stamped thing and leave with bread, oil, wine, cloth, or service. The coin also carries authority. The face of a ruler, the name of a state, the consistency of metal and value, all turn money into propaganda and trust at the same time. Modern money still does this. Even when money becomes invisible, it needs recognizable authority. The card network, the bank, the state, the payment processor, the app, the confirmation sound. Ancient Roman coinage reminds us that money is comfort because it makes strangers briefly compatible. The rule survives. Make value portable. Make trust small enough to fit in a hand. The 29th rule is to let the city count people indirectly. Modern administration counts everything. Addresses, residents, tax records, businesses, vehicles, students, births, deaths, buildings, complaints, inspections. Ancient Rome also needed counts, though with different tools and categories. The census is one of the famous Roman institutions because it connected people, property, status, taxation, military obligation, and civic identity. Counting was not neutral. It could burden people. It could classify them. It could expose wealth or lack. It could decide duties. But it also shows an old administrative truth. A large society cannot act on what it cannot make legible. Before modern comfort, being counted could be frightening, but not being counted could also mean being invisible. Modern people know this contradiction well. We dislike forms. We dislike registrations. We dislike being reduced to fields in a database. But we also want schools planned, hospitals funded, roads built, mail delivered, benefits assigned, elections organized, disasters managed, and services routed. Counting makes comfort possible, while also making control easier. Rome's census habit sits inside that tension. Imagine a household being assessed. Names, property, rank, obligations. The state wants to know what can be taxed, who can serve, Who belongs where? For the person being counted, this may feel less like comfort and more like exposure. But for the city, the count is a map of capacity. How much can be demanded? Who owes what? What kind of community is this? Modern comfort still depends on such counting, only vastly expanded and hidden behind forms and systems. The rule survives because no large public comfort remains vague for long. Sooner or later, someone counts. The 30th rule is to make boundaries official. The modern world is full of official boundaries. Property lines, city limits, districts, school zones, postal codes, voting precincts, parking zones, historic districts, restricted areas, service areas. Ancient Rome was also deeply interested in boundaries. Sacred boundaries, city boundaries, property boundaries, roads, fields, provinces, military frontiers, legal jurisdictions. The boundary is one of the oldest comforts because it reduces arguments. Not all arguments. Sometimes boundaries create arguments. But without boundaries, every edge must be renegotiated constantly. Where does your field end? Where does the public road begin? Where can the dead be buried? Where does a magistrate's power apply? Where does one community give way to another? Where does a soldier stand guard? Where may a building extend? Modern comfort depends on these lines. You may never see the survey record behind your apartment. You may never think about the municipal boundary that decides who collects your trash. You may not care which district maintains the road until a pothole appears. But the line is there. Roman culture often expressed boundaries through ritual, law, markers, roads, walls, stones, and administrative language. The point was not only physical separation. It was meaning. This side and that side are not the same. This place has a rule. That place has another rule. Before modern comfort, confusion over boundaries could become violence, debt, lawsuit, insult, or sacred offense. The boundary marker was a small object doing heavy emotional labor. We still follow the rule. Name the edge. Mark the edge. Argue over the edge in official language rather than with everybody in the street. The first rule is to make the night less private. Night is different before electric light. Modern people know darkness mostly as atmosphere. A dim restaurant. A sleeping room. A night walk under streetlights. A dark mode screen. But before modern lighting, night changed the city more sharply. Movement became harder. Danger felt closer. Fire became more visible and more frightening. Noise traveled differently. People depended on lamps, torches, moonlight, habit, and caution. Roman cities, like later cities, needed ways to manage night. Watchmen, household lamps, public order, gates, curfews in some contexts, and night labor all belonged to the old problem. The night cannot be left completely to itself when people live close together. This rule survives in modern streetlights, patrols, emergency numbers, all-night transit, hospital shifts, delivery windows, and building security. We forget how luxurious this is. To move after sunset with the expectation that the city remains partly awake for you. To know that a pharmacy might be open. To know that an ambulance can come. To know that a streetlight marks the pavement. To know that someone can be called. Ancient Rome did not offer this in a modern way. But its night watches and urban services show the same civic anxiety. What happens when thousands sleep and some do not? Who hears fire? Who notices theft? Who controls noise? Who moves through darkness with authority? Before modern comfort, night made the limits of the city visible. The rule survives because darkness still asks the same question. Who is awake on behalf of everyone else? The 32nd rule is to make comfort depend on labor you do not see. This is the rule underneath all the others. A Roman bath needed attendants, cleaners, fuel, water, maintenance, builders, and supply. A road needed surveyors, laborers, stone, repair, authority, and security. A public fountain needed channels, workers, and control. A shop counter needed food production, transport, vessels, rent, and customers. A written law needed scribes, display, teaching, enforcement, and memory. Modern comfort is the same, only deeper and more hidden. You see the tap, not the worker in the treatment plant. You see the road, not the crew repairing it at night. You see the clean hotel room, not the person who turned it around. You see the delivered meal, not the chain of hands behind the bag. You see the calendar alert, not the entire history of agreed time. Rome feels close because its comforts are still visible enough to remind us that systems are made of labor. The aqueduct is not a pipe in a wall. It is an object crossing land. The bath is not a private shower. It is a building full of heat and bodies. The road is not an invisible logistics network. It is stone underfoot. The public notice is not a push notification. It is paint on a wall. The coin is not a line in a bank app. It is metal in a palm. Ancient comfort is easier to see because it has not yet disappeared behind screens, insulation, automation, and distance. That is why these Roman rules matter. They are not just trivia. They are reminders. The world you live in is full of old decisions that became so normal they turned invisible. Write the law down. Name the day. Build the road. Mark the distance. Bring the water in. Let the street speak. Standardize the measure. Post the notice. Separate feet from wheels. Watch the night. Repair what breaks. Count what must be managed. Make boundaries official. Feed the person away from home. Give strangers a shared routine. These rules still surround you. Not always because Rome handed them directly to the modern world in a straight line. History is rarely that clean. But because Rome shows, with unusual clarity, how old the problems are. The modern city is not comfortable because humans stopped needing rules. It is comfortable because rules moved into pavement, pipes, forms, schedules, signs, screens, and habits. So the next time you wait at a crosswalk, think of raised stones in an ancient street. The next time you drink from a tap, think of water pulled across distance by gravity and care. The next time you glance at a date, think of a city trying to make time obey. The next time you read a posted notice you barely care about, think of a wall that once carried law, politics, business, and memory. The next time you complain about roadwork, remember that the real miracle is not the first road. It is the decision to repair it. And the next time modern comfort feels boring, remember that boring comfort is often ancient panic made manageable. A road is a solved fear of distance. A drain is a solved fear of filth. A calendar is a solved fear of confusion. A law code is a solved fear of hidden power. A public bath is a solved fear of bodily discomfort. A food counter is a solved fear of hunger away from home. A street light is a solved fear of night. Before modern comfort, these fears were closer to the skin. Rome did not remove them. No city ever fully does. But Rome gave many of them shapes. Stone shapes. Written shapes. Measured shapes. Public shapes. And once a fear has a shape, people can build around it. That may be the most Roman habit we still follow. When daily life becomes too uncomfortable to leave to chance, turn the discomfort into a system. Then repeat it until everyone forgets it was ever strange.